So we want kind of a smaller tree. We want one that is going to be able to handle the full weight of the sun and the heat of the sun on a summer day. So I came up with a list of several trees that can be shorter, that are going to have flowers, are going to have fruit, or they're going to be able to provide some sort of habitat for birds as well as other pollinators. All right, let's get started. So the first one I have on here is flowering crabapple. Now, there are lots of different varieties of crabapple, and there's a ton of different flowers. So these can be absolute showstoppers when you see them in bloom in the summer. They can have white, pink, almost red. And then in the fall, they'll get these little fruits. They're called crabapples. They're like tiny little apples, and they really are beautiful. They can persist into the winter if the birds don't quite eat them. So it actually can be decorative throughout the year. It's a great plant. There's lots of different varieties. Some of them can be anywhere from 7 to 10 feet. Most of them are going to be anywhere from 15 to 20 feet tall. Another tree is Fringe tree. This is just a really beautiful tree. I like it. It's often a shrub, but you can actually grow it like a tree. Some of them can get all the way up to 33 feet, but usually they're going to be quite a bit smaller than that. You can grow them many different ways. Since it is a shrub, you're going to have more control of it. So you can make it so it's a single stem, or you can make it a multi-trunk. I happen to like them when they're multi-trunks, and then you're just able to prune them and make them how you want them. These flower anywhere from April to May, and they just have these beautiful, delicate, drooping bundles on their plants. Interestingly enough, we do have a native smoke tree that actually can be confused for fringe tree. The one that is in this picture here is not one of our natives. It's a popular variety with purple leaves, but it's just a really beautiful tree, different than what you would typically see. They kind of have these feathery, dusty clusters that are finer and are not actually the flowers like it would have been for fringe tree. And so it's just another unique type of tree that you might consider. Flowering dogwood is another one. We do have some native varieties, and then there's some cultivated varieties as well. Flowering dogwood is actually Missouri's official state tree, and it can just be absolutely beautiful in the spring. And then it has some really deep red, almost purple foliage in the fall. Just a really beautiful tree that can be a great specimen tree, or you can have multiple of these trees. Like I said, there's different kinds of colors. Our native tree is going to have white flowers, but there's some with pink and almost red flowers. Serviceberry is one of my favorite trees. So it's also known as Juneberry, Shadbush, Serviceberry, Service tree, Shadblow, Sugar Plum, lots of different names, but it's this really beautiful small tree. It could be considered a shrub as well, but it's going to depend on how you prune it. A native tree, it has a lot of value for our wildlife. It has edible fruit. It's one of the first trees that is in bloom, just a really beautiful tree. It usually gets to about 35 to 40 feet, so it's going to be taller out of the trees that I'm presenting here, but it's often smaller than that. So you're going to get a bit of a range, but it's just a really wonderful tree. This next one you might not have thought about, but sumac could actually be used. I've seen sumac used really well in landscapes. We have several different varieties. I think we have 4 different species of sumac here in Missouri. We have fragrant, we have winged, it's also called dwarf or shining sumac, smooth sumac, and staghorn sumac. These have just spectacular leaves in the fall. During the summer, you're going to see the fluorescence. Just a really unique, interesting shrub to use also in your landscaping. And finally, I'm going to end with elderberry. Elderberry is a native plant that we have here. It can be a shrub anywhere from 8 to even 12, or even up to 15 feet. I've seen some pretty large elderberries. Again, with it being a shrub that can be pruned as a tree, it can be just really beautiful, and it gives you quite a bit of control for a small bed. It does have these just really beautiful, very fragrant flowers, and then you'll have berries that you can eat as well as share with wildlife. There are some cultivated varieties out there. This is one that has almost black leaves and pink flowers. So you have a lot of variety, a lot to choose from to try and come up with a tree or a tall shrub in a small area that's also going to be beneficial for the birds and the bees.